We only have 2 spots left to fill in the Civics Bowl semifinals. Today we'll find out if Shadle Park High School or Liberty High School will advance to the next round of the tournament.
The Civics Bowl is made possible by Eastern Washington University, Canopy Credit Union, the Avista Foundation, the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area and of Washington, and by viewers like you.
Hello and welcome. I'm President and General Manager of KSPS, Gary Stokes, as well as your Civics Bowl host. Civics Bowl is Spokane's very first televised civics competition, pitting teams from Spokane area high schools against one another. Questions were provided by volunteers from the Spokane branch of the League of Women Voters. Let's take a look at the tournament bracket. Competition is really heating up. So far, Lewis and Clark High School and the Community School are in the semifinals. Today, the 3rd spot is up for grabs. Will it be Shadle Park or Liberty? Let's meet each team now. Shadle, take it away.
I'm Ella.
I'm Colin.
I'm Cameron.
I'm Mercy.
And we also want to welcome their coach, Mark Miller. Liberty returns this week after winning one of the play-in matches in week 1. Welcome back. Players, introduce yourselves to the folks at home for us one more time.
I'm Henry.
I'm Mitchell.
I'm Isabel.
I'm Eli.
And we also want to welcome Liberty's alternate, Dylan, and their coach, Randy Degenhart. Okay, let's start the match with the toss-up round. In this round, I'll ask a toss-up question to all players. You must wait until I finish reading the question, then you can buzz in to answer. Whichever team answers the toss-up question correctly will receive a bonus question. All questions in this round are worth 10 points. There is no deduction for wrong answers. You are encouraged to collaborate with your teammates only on the bonus questions. Teams, are you ready? Let's go. By April 19, 1775, the shot heard round the world had been fired. Which 2 battles signified the beginning of the Revolution? Eli.
The Battle of Lexington and Concord.
Correct, and here's your bonus. True or false, revolution had started before the Second Continental Congress convened?
True.
True is correct. Here's your toss-up. What exact date was the Declaration of Independence signed? Mitchell.
July 4th, 1776.
That is correct, and here's your bonus, and it's multiple choice. The primary author of the Declaration of Independence was Thomas Jefferson. How old was Jefferson when he joined the Second Continental Congress as a delegate from Virginia? A, 29, B, 32, C, 45, D, 50.
B, 42. 32, sorry.
The judge says no. 32 would be correct, but you said 42, and so that's what we had to take. Let's go to the toss-up for both teams. Before the U.S. Constitution, we had the Articles of Confederation. Name 2 powers assigned to Congress in the document. Mitchell.
They could govern newly acquired territories of the nation, and they could pass some laws for the entire country.
That is correct, and here's your bonus. Name 1 power Congress lacked in the Articles of Confederation.
Print money. They could not print money.
Correct. Now to your toss-up. What was the original goal of the Constitutional Convention in 1787? Mitchell.
To revise the Articles of Confederation.
Correct. Here's your bonus. How did this historic event evolve?
They drafted an entirely new constitution for the country.
That is correct. Toss up, both teams. Name the 2 plans for government put forward to replace the Articles of Confederation. Mitchell.
The New Jersey Plan and the Virginia Plan.
That is correct, and here's your bonus. What is the key difference between the Virginia Plan and the New Jersey Plan?
The Virginia Plan proposed that representation would be based on the size of the state, whereas the New Jersey Plan wanted equal representation in Congress for every state.
That is correct. Toss up, both teams. What part of the U.S. Constitution describes the role of government as the framers saw it? Mitchell.
The preamble.
That is correct, and here's your bonus, and it is a multiple choice. Which of the following is not a role of government specified in the preamble to the Constitution? A, to establish justice. B, to promote economic security. C, to provide for the common defense. D, to form a more perfect union.
B.
That is correct. And here's your toss-up, and it comes from a guest presenter.
Hi, I'm Kathy McMorris Rogers. I represent Washington's 5th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives, which includes Spokane and all of Eastern Washington. Here's your question. Article 1, Section 7 of the U.S. Constitution states that, quote, all bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives. What is the nickname given to this power of the House?
Mitchell.
Power of the purse.
That is correct. And here's your bonus.
The bulk of our work in Congress is done in committees. I'm excited to be the first woman to serve as the chair of the oldest committee in the House of Representatives, which is at the forefront of powering America's economy through energy, technology, and healthcare. What is the name of this committee, first created in 1795?
Ways and Means.
Commerce Committee, or the House and Energy and Commerce Committee. And now here's your next toss-up. What fraction of each House of Congress must vote to propose an amendment to the Constitution? Mitchell.
2/3.
That is correct. Here's your bonus. How many amendments to the Constitution have been ratified?
27.
That is also correct. And here's another video question.
Hi, I'm Sherry McMahon, President of Eastern Washington University. Go Eagles! Here's your question. A time of heightened creativity in the arts, sciences, and economics arose between the 14th and 17th centuries. What is this period called?
Mitchell.
The Renaissance.
That is correct. And here is your last question and your bonus.
What is the name of the intellectual movement of the early 18th century that was based on reason?
The Enlightenment.
That is correct. And that wraps up this round. Congratulations, teams. Great job. And after round one, Liberty 160 and Shadle Park 0. We'll be back in a moment to get to know the players and play the head-to-head round.
Here's the answer to last week's question. Which dam funded by Roosevelt's New Deal is the largest dam in the United States today? Bonneville Dam, Hoover Dam, Fort Peck Dam, or Grand Coulee Dam? The correct answer is D, the Grand Coulee Dam on the Columbia River in Washington State. Construction started in 1933 and ended in 1941. The mass of concrete stands 550 feet high and more than 5,000 feet long, just shy of a mile, with enough concrete to build a highway from Seattle to Miami. Grand Coulee is also the largest hydroelectric plant in the United States. Its 3 power plants generate, on average, about 21 billion kilowatt hours a year. Hoover Dam generates approximately 4 billion. Stay tuned. This week's question is coming up later in the show.
We'd like to take a moment to get to know our players and their schools a little better. We've asked each school to produce a video for Civics Bowl. Shadle, let's start with yours. And now let's hear from each of you. What's your class year, and your favorite subject in school. Ella.
I'm a senior and my favorite subject is math.
Colin.
I'm a senior and my favorite subject is metals or woodshop.
Cameron.
I'm a senior and my favorite subject is theater.
And Mercy.
I'm a senior and my favorite subject is leadership.
Thank you very much. Liberty, it's your turn. We already saw your video, but it was so good, we want to see it again. Here it is.
Liberty High School from Spangle, Washington.
180 Lancers attend our 2B school.
Liberty is a small school helping students realize their large potential.
Since 2014, Lancer teams have appeared in 7 state championship games.
Girls basketball winning in 2020.
Boys basketball winning in 2022.
We have 6 wrestling state titles.
9 academic state championship teams.
National ranking FFA teams.
Award-winning music program.
This year, we are sending our first Civics team.
Let's hear from the players from Liberty High School now. Players, same question to you. What's your class year and your favorite subject in school? Henry.
I'm a senior and my favorite subject is history.
Mitchell.
I am a sophomore and my favorite subject is history.
Isabel.
I'm a senior and my favorite subject is music.
And Eli.
I'm a senior and my favorite subject is history.
Thank you very much, both teams. We're going to get back to the game with the head-to-head round coming up next. We're going head-to-head in this next round. Teams, here are the rules. Just as with the last round, you must wait for me to finish asking the question, then you can buzz in to answer. Correct answers are worth 10 points, no deduction for wrong answers, and teams, you are not allowed to work together in this round. Let's remind everyone of the score. 160-0. Are you ready? Let's go. Most cases reach the Supreme Court by an order directing a lower court to send up the record in a given case for the High Court's review. What is the name of this order? And we won't deduct points for pronunciation on this tough one.
Appeal?
Incorrect. Writ of certiorari. Writ of certiorari. Next. The writ of certiorari is a Latin term. What does it mean?
Summons?
Incorrect.
Summons.
To be made more certain. To be made more certain. Next. What is a writ of habeas corpus? A court order that prevents unlawful or illegal arrests and indefinite imprisonment. What is the purpose of a grand jury?
For more opinions?
Incorrect.
For more serious crimes such as treason and murder.
Also incorrect. A body of citizens called to court to determine if enough evidence of a crime exists to put a person on trial for a crime that could lead to imprisonment or the death penalty. What do we call a law which is basic and of lasting importance and sets forth major principles from which all other laws must be built?
Law of the land? No, it's...
Law of the land was the answer, which is incorrect.
Amendment?
Fundamental law, fundamental law. By comparison, what is statutory law?
Law which is not the basis of all other law.
Incorrect.
Established precedent.
A law that should be enacted as ordinary law by the state legislature and in some states by the voters. The formal election of the U.S. president takes place in early January. Who opens the electoral votes from each state and counts them before a joint session of Congress?
The vice president.
That is correct. There are 538 members of the Electoral College. Each state gets as many electors as it has members of Congress, which comes to 535 total. Where do the additional 3 electors come from?
Washington, D.C.
That is correct. Name 2 items colonial Americans were forced to pay taxes on because of the Townshend Act of 1765.
Tea, stamps, and food?
No, somebody, that's not it. Next. Glass, lead, paint, paper, and tea. Name 2 items taxed by the Stamp Act of 1765.
Playing cards and newspapers.
That is correct. Not all colonist leaders approved of the Boston Tea Party to protest British taxes, including Benjamin Franklin and which future president?
George Washington?
Correct. Name 1 tax an employee at a fast food restaurant pays to the federal government.
Sales tax?
Incorrect?
Income tax?
Income tax is correct. And that was the last question. Nice job, everybody. We'll update the scores and get set up for the next round. Category round is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. It's time for the category round. In this round, teams will answer questions from the following categories: principles of the Constitution, electing the president, the Supreme Court, individual rights, and tribal sovereignty. Each category has 5 questions that increase in point value from 10 to 30. Teams will alternate choosing a category. You can pick any category, however, you cannot jump ahead in point value. Points are deducted for wrong answers in this round. You will work together to answer each question. Now, there's some strategy involved in this round. You can pass on a question, which means you can choose not to answer, and no points will be deducted. You can also toss a question to the other team. The receiving team is then forced to answer that question and either win or lose the associated points. But you can only toss a question 3 times, so use them wisely. Let's remind everyone of the score. Liberty 210, Shadle Park 0. Teams, if you're ready, let's begin. Shadle, you get to pick.
We would like individual rights.
Individual rights for 10 points. When the Constitution was written in 1787, what was missing that caused an outcry from concerned citizens?
The Bill of Rights.
That is correct. Liberty?
Individual rights for 15.
Individual rights for 15. What is the Bill of Rights?
The Bill of Rights defines the freedoms that Americans enjoy and places certain limitations on the government.
That is correct. Shadle?
Individual rights for 20.
What year was the Bill of Rights ratified? 1776, 1791, 1798, 1964.
1791.
That is correct. Liberty?
Individual rights 25.
True or false? When the Bill of Rights was ratified, all people were given equal rights under the law.
False.
That is correct. Of course, we know that it would take decades, even centuries, for the guarantees of personal freedom to be extended to other Americans. Shadle?
Individual rights for 30.
Individual rights for 30. Which constitutional amendment, also part of the Bill of Rights, was designed to protect rights not anticipated by the founders at that time?
Number 9.
That is correct, and that category is closed. Liberty?
Electing the president for 10.
Electing the president for 10. Once again, here's Eastern Washington University President Sherry McMahon with your video question.
As people vote in a presidential election, they do not actually cast a vote directly for one of the candidates. Who do they vote for instead?
It's to the Electoral College.
That is correct. Shadle?
Electing the president for 15.
Electing the president for 15. Look at the map on your screen. Why are many states depicted to be larger or smaller than they actually are?
To represent their population and thus having more delegates, representatives.
That is correct. Liberty?
Electing the president for 20.
How many electoral votes does a presidential candidate need to win?
270 to win.
That is correct. Shadle.
Electing the president for 25?
The popular vote winner has failed to win the presidency only a few times throughout American history. Name one president who did not win the popular election.
Didn't win the popular election. Donald Trump?
That is correct. The others are George Bush, Benjamin Harrison, Rutherford B. Hayes, and John Quincy Adams.
Electing the president for 30.
The Electoral College faces regular criticism, but what major obstacle stands in the way of proposals to eliminate it?
A constitutional amendment would be required to do so.
That is correct. All right. Shadle.
Principles of the Constitution for 10?
Principles of the Constitution. Which of the basic principles around which the U.S. Constitution is written means that all political power resides in the people?
Number 10?
That is incorrect. Popular sovereignty. Liberty.
Supreme Court for 10.
Supreme Court for 10. Who is currently the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court?
John Roberts.
That is correct. Shadle.
Principles of the Constitution for 15?
And once again, here is U.S. Representative Kathy McMorris-Rogers for your video question.
Which basic principle of the Constitution means that the powers of the government are distributed among three distinct and independent branches of the government?
Answer, please.
Legislative, executive, and judicial?
That is incorrect. Separation of powers. Separation of powers. Liberty.
Principles of the Constitution for 20.
And this will be your last question. Which basic principle of the Constitution means that each branch of government is subject to a number of constitutional restraints by the other branches?
Checks and balances.
That is correct. And that wraps up this round. Well done, teams. And we only have one round left, the all-important lightning round. And it's coming up next.
Which president used a law, later deemed unconstitutional, to imprison a member of Congress for calling him pompous? A. John Adams. B. Thomas Jefferson. C. James Madison. D. Andrew Jackson. Do you know the answer? Follow the QR code on your screen or go to ksps.org/civicsbowl to submit your answer and be entered into a drawing to win a prize. The deadline to enter is Monday at noon. And please, you're on the honor system here. No Googling. We will contact the winner directly and let you all know the right answer next week on Civics Bowl.
We're just one round from learning who will snag that third spot in the semifinals this season. In the lightning round, we'll put on a minute 30 on the clock. This is your chance to answer as many questions as you can in that time. Each question is worth 20 points. Points are deducted for wrong answers. You answer individually in this round. No conferring is allowed. Let's get a final check on the score. Liberty 340, Shadle Park 75. Okay, teams, are you ready? Let's go. Where does the U.S. legislative branch reside? Mitchell.
The Capitol building.
That is correct. In the Roman Republic, who was allowed to vote? Isabel.
Roman citizens that were
That is correct. Which amendment lowered the voting age to 18 in all U.S. elections? Colin.
26.
That is correct. True or false? A new state can be created by taking territory from one or more of the existing states without the consent of the legislatures of those states. Mitchell.
False.
That is correct. True or false? The president's role of commander-in-chief is granted by the Constitution.
True.
True. That is correct. When talking about the federal government, what does EOP stand for? Executive Office of the President. When will the next U.S. presidential election be held? Mitchell.
2024.
That is correct. How many senators are needed to approve a president's nomination for a federal judge? Mitchell.
50 plus 1.
That is correct. True or false, the president needs Senate approval before ratifying a treaty? Mitchell.
True.
Correct. What proportion of the Senate must approve a treaty before it is ratified? Mitchell.
2/3.
That is correct. What are U.S. military courts called? Mitchell.
Court martials.
Yes. What do we call a citizen-initiated petition seeking a vote to remove an elected official prior to the end of their term? Mitchell.
Recall election.
That is correct. Rich. And that wraps it up. With the final score of 520 to 115, Liberty wins over Shadle Park. Both teams did a great job today. Please give them a hand of applause. Join us next week for our final round one matchup. North Central High and Central Valley High will play to advance in the Civics Bowl tournament. We hope you enjoy playing along at home. See you next week. And I'm going to go over and congratulate the combatants.
The Civics Bowl is made possible by Eastern Washington University, Canopy Credit Union, the Avista Foundation, the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area and of Washington, and by viewers like you.
If you're a regional school interested in taking part in Civics Bowl next year, we want to know. Go to ksps.org/civicsbowl to fill out our online contact form.